Welcome to Debate Talk for You. My name is Jennifer Mclean. This is a brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this platform by individuals, callers, or invited guests are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with the brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard, live or via archive, for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk for You Radio.
When you hear this topic, what is the true meaning of love? What comes to mind?
In my opinion, the true meaning of love to me is more of an action word, and it's more of a, I believe it's the highest form of, it's the highest form it's the highest form of an action that someone could share between one another or different types of people. To me, true love is something that, it's like an experience. It's like a highest form of experience that two people can experience. It's also like an openly shared. It's like openly shared. I don't know. So to me, it's just like something that's like a highest form of experience. You know, when I think of love, I think of something that's just priceless. Something that it can't be brought. It's just a actual word. It's like you really can't describe it if it's too much of a word, because for me it's more action. So when someone says that you love someone, it's more like, okay, well, show me. Love can be expressed through action, in my opinion.
All right, well, we're all co-hosts on here, so anybody can join in at any time, y'all. So anybody else want to follow what's the true meaning of love, go ahead. It's a conversation piece. I can ask each other questions, all of that. So go ahead. Let's go to Elijah. What's the love, brother?
I think Reese should go next.
All right, Reese.
I thought that's cool. I was waiting because Sal said that Vinny would take the lead on the conversation because it was his topic, but I don't mind. Mm-hmm. So the way I define love is a very similar way, where it's just action, and it really has to do with creating vibrational frequencies and aligning them with a certain goal or a certain intention. If a thing is love, that means it has to be aligned with a vibrational frequency that equals to love. So that is extremely, how do you say, it's objective. Yeah, it's extremely objective. It's relative to the person, relative to the situation, relative to the environment. So, it's just really a balance of frequencies and energy.
Yeah, I do agree.
So mine is probably going to be a bit different. Some similarities, but I would say this is the truncated version, but it is the consistent activity of considering and meeting the needs of another entity. And when I say the consistent activity, like from a parental standpoint, a parent is going to love their child, but obviously if they, decided to go pursue some vice that caused them to lose control of their will, let's say like drugs, for example, or alcohol, and they could not meet the needs of their children or did not meet the needs of their children. By application, I would argue that that parent did not love that child. No matter how much they thought about it, like the activity has to be connected to the thought. And then when you extend that past like a people-to-people ecology, like not just dealing with human beings, you have some people who care for animals like that, right? I'm not one of those, but you have people who you know, they don't want to see any harm come to animals, right? Because they really, really love animals, and some people take that to another extent. Then you have like a sibling type of love, like, you know, if you have a brother or sister, you're consistently thinking upon their needs. So, you know, if there's one slice of pizza left, you might want to consider giving it to them as opposed to taking it for yourself. And then you have a whole nother realm of it where love deals with that which is created. So people who consider the planet, for example, they don't just misuse the land, for example, right? Like you want to let the land rest and take its break because you actually care about the land. You don't want to use plastic goods. You may get a water bottle that is reusable because you care about the water, you care about the land. Even the way you use trash or what you decide to eat, you probably don't eat a lot out of the grocery store or the corner store because you got to keep purchasing plastic or little aluminum bags that you discard on the street. So if you really loved, right, I think that to me is the application where you're considering consistently in thought and in action the needs of another entity beyond yourself. That's my true definition. That's the truncated version.
Yeah, still wait for Vinny D to call in. Once again, the number is 395-239. But from a relationship standpoint, like, Jennifer, how do you know, like, when someone loves you from a relationship standpoint? Like, can you tell? Because some people get a misconstruction, I guess, you know, when it comes to love. But how do you tell? How can you tell when someone loves you?
For me, I normally, like I said, I'm more of an action person. Like, I look for expressions. I look for things that you do. I look at things that you do, how you carry yourself, and how you are around me. Because, you know, anybody can tell you, I love you. I hear that all the time. Actually, I love you is just such a fluid word where it just comes naturally. Like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. But when it comes to me, I look for, like, okay, well, if you say you love me, well, prove it. Show me how you love me. So it's more of how you behave around me, how you express your love around me. For example, you know, somebody could express their love in a way of, you know, I had a long day of work, you know, so I came home and dinner was cooked and, you know, the house is clean. You know, that's the expression of love. It's like, okay, well, you're being considerate. You know, I had a long day of work, you're home, so you're expressing your love for me versus, you know, just telling me, hey, I love you today. Well, okay, show me. So that's pretty much an example of a way of loving me. Also, you know, just I think love is always an equal give and take. You know, it's not one person just taking, or giving. It's like a balance when it comes to love. So that as well is important to me when it comes to love. That's it.
All right. Reese, you want to join in? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So for me, if I'm just trying to identify love and how it feels in my experience of it, it's more so about the meeting of needs. You know, if it's a love situation, it definitely involves a balance, like Jennifer said, because if I cannot exist in hell with a person, then I can't exist in heaven with them either. And so if I can be at my worst, if I can have issues, and if I can just be flawed, and a person is still able to interpret me and still able to provide what I need, even if it's just reassurance, if it's just some encouragement, or if it's whatever, anything that could be needed to alleviate the situation, to me that is an act of love. It's just making room for a person to grow, helping them along the path of growth. That's just like watering a plant. You give it what it needs to grow, and that is really just a simple. That's just a simple display of love, and it kind of feels the same way whether you're giving that to a person or if you're receiving that from a person. But It could be that way in any situation. It could be a romantic relationship or a platonic relationship. It could be personal. It could be business. It could be with one of your friends. But love is just simply an expression of giving something of yourself to help the path, help another person along their path of growth in whatever ways that's needed. So, it could feel a lot of different ways. A lot of people think that love has to feel good, and it does not. Sometimes love could be the thing that you go through that breaks you down. And if I love my son, I'm going to discipline him. I'm going to make sure I tell him no sometimes. I'm going to make sure that he knows when he's messing up. I'm going to give him every part of love, not just the happy, not just the joy, not just the warm, fuzzy feelings that people usually expect when they think about love. But it's the fullness of it. It is, I'm going to tear your behind up because I love you. And to me, that is when you really know that you have something that is real. When it can hurt and it can feel good, but you know that it's growing you either way. That is love.
All right, Vinny, we got Vinny in the Vinny. Say what's up, Vinny.
Hey, how y'all doing this evening? Hope everybody's well. Sorry for being a little late. I just had to pack up and get work.
That's no problem. You can take the lead. That topic, my brother. Go ahead. You can take over.
Okay. So I need to. I guess I should be filled in because I didn't know what was going on. Should I start out?
You're breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up. Now, the only two questions was asked was, what is the true meaning of love? And everybody, broke down their definitions. And the second question was, in a relationship standpoint, how do you know when someone loves you? Well, that's it.
Okay. So the way I would define love is from the first person point of view, is to treat the other person.
You're kind of breaking up.
Like you would treat yourself.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Good. Kind of breaking up a little.
Is that better?
All right, good. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess the way I would define love is in the first person point of view is to treat the other person like you would want to be treated. So if you wouldn't want something done to you, then don't do it to that person. And also telling them not always what they wanted to hear. I guess I kind of caught the last sister. I guess that was that Sister Reese. I kind of caught the end of what she was saying, and I agree. It's you discipline your kids, teach them the right way to go, and then also, for your friends, you don't allow them to think that, if they do something wrong, then you don't have any respect for persons. You pretty much, you talk to them and you tell them that they're wrong so that they don't think that it's okay, and also if, like, say, for instance, they have an issue or they have a problem, maybe like a drug problem or something. I know the common thing is to, like, console somebody to the point to where it's like you're coddling them, but if you do that, then, you might get sucked into that point to where, you're kind of condoning what they're doing, for the sake of sparing their feelings, But love is the truth, pretty much summed up for me. Love is the truth, and it's also treating people how you want to be treated. And then what was the other question that you asked everybody?
Oh, no, I was just saying from a relationship standpoint, like, how do you know when someone loves you?
Oh, okay. So in the relationship standpoint is, somebody loves you, well, same thing, like when they treat you the way that they want to be treated, and then also if they know that certain things irk you and bug you, then they will try to steer clear of doing those types of things, Also, it's telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear all the time, being honest to the point to where you're
you're being honest out of love and not condensation, you know. But yeah, if somebody loves you and you love them, then you know that's pretty much what they you know, somebody would do. These people just walking in the middle of the street on a red light, like like that at the Bahamas or something. People crazy. But anyway, maybe I should honk at them and show them a little bit of love. But anyway, hello? Can I be heard?
You live, brother?
Hello?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
You live.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's my definition. That's my definition. And I just pretty much wanted to get everybody's opinion, you know, or their definition on what it was, you know, like say, for instance, like you see somebody, like maybe you have somebody who's a smoker or something like that, like or a cousin that's maybe like in street life and they just doing all type of bad stuff, you know. When you go around them, like how do you show them love? Like how do you go about dealing with them without, you know, I guess coming at them the wrong way or something like that?
Let's go to Jennifer. Let's go to Jennifer real quick because we do have a caller, by the way, standing by. But Jennifer has limited time, so go ahead, Jennifer. You can answer. And Vinny, I had some background noise, so just mute your mic real quick when you're done.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer. You can answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Vinny. You brought up a lot of great points. To piggyback off of your question, I believe when you're in a relationship and with someone, actually, that's a good point because I actually, you know, if you're in a relationship and, you know, one thing I don't like is smoking. And for your partner to actually, you know, not refrain from smoking around you, that is like a sign of love for me because it's like not only is it love, but it's respect. And love and respect goes hand in hand. So it's like my definition of love is more of an action word. I'm more of an action person. It's like you prove your love to me through how you act and how you treat me and how you behave around me. That's how I determine if you really love me or not. Because I feel like action does not lie versus somebody just telling you they love you. So yeah, that's something I figured, you know, when somebody have boundaries and respect the differences, that's a form of love too as well. And that's a form of expressing love through action. So that was like my example.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you was about to say something, brother?
Yeah, I think part of when you said somebody whose their behavior is totally different from where yours is, I think part of it, maybe Reese was saying it about like a certain level of consciousness. So if your behavior exemplifies, let's say, like an animal behavior, and I believe that your behavior should be a human behavior, then I have to do things that help raise your consciousness and bring you to a level where you, one, held accountable for your behavior, two, help you to appreciate that you're not consciously behaving, or maybe you are, but like you're not consciously behaving like a human would behave. So if you running around acting, you know, however people act in certain elements, that's not how humans should behave. So my job in terms of loving you would be to help bring you to a higher level of consciousness. And that would be like communicating things to you, holding you accountable for things that you should be doing, speaking to you in ways that you can understand, having conversations with you, talking to you about the things that are opposite of what's normal, and hopefully trying to pull you back to a space of normality. And I'm going to pause there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you brought up some great points. Do we got Sister Reese on the air? Because I wanted to ask her a question about some of the stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, you too, Sister Reese. How about you?
Say the question again.
The question is basically like, I'm kind of distracted right now driving, but the question is basically like, how do you, show somebody that you love them, like without being without coming off condescending or something like that?
I struggle with it. There's a science to it, and it's not necessarily something that's easy to pinpoint, because there's a social conditioning that we kind of struggle with in our world and our relationships. They have this inverted dynamic, and so a lot of times for me, being a person who is just trying to show love and I'm trying to communicate something, but it might be a little bit more harsh. I don't necessarily know how to soften the blow. I'm the type of sister that's just gonna give it to you raw, and however you deal with it, you deal with it. But that's just because I don't necessarily have as much of a feminine side to rely on as I might like. And that's a social conditioning type of problem in our society in general, because the way I was raised, my mother was in the military. She was a professional shooter, with an assault rifle. She didn't hug or kiss me like this. So, for me to be a nurturing woman and try to deliver my love in a soft way, something that's not going to hurt or not going to be condescending or not going to be, wrapped up in a little bit of attitude or anger, that's something that's not always, it doesn't really come easy to me. A lot of times men talk about it not being easy for them to be soft either, having this connection to their emotions. But again, I think that's a society problem. And for me, it's just I deliver the blow however it comes out, and I try to clean up the mess later. If I was angry when I said something, I will. First of all, I do check myself. I like to step outside of myself and look at the situations that I'm in from a higher perspective. And if I can pinpoint where I may have said something a little too harshly, or I may have been a little too, attitudinal or a little too snappy, then I'll come back after I've cooled off and after the situation has passed for a little while, and I'll try to show my love there and say, look, damn, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to give you that much attitude, but this is where that came from. I'll try to explain this is why I may have lost my cool a little bit, but you're going to have to meet me where I'm at, because I don't necessarily have all the answers about communicating love in the most healthy of ways all the time, because in all truth and reality, that's just not how I was raised. And, but I do recognize that it's something that I have to work on, and something that I have to constantly be at it. And that's what my brother was saying, is that it's a consistent action. If you're giving love and showing love, you should consistently be active about it, like my sister Jennifer was saying. It's a consistency, it's an action word, and it's definitely something that you have to be very conscious of and reminding yourself that you're supposed to be acting in love in all things. And so even if you have a moment where the love is not coming off the way you think it should, you should have enough love inside of you to come back and try to clean that up and turn it around to the point where it now feels like love, even if it didn't at first. And that's the beauty of being human and having this power of alchemy. Whatever energy you put into the universe can always be alchemized. It can always be transformed into something better or something good, no matter what you may have done. And I think that's a reason why some people don't believe in karma, because even if you started off wrong, you can always come back. And so that's what I try to do, just to make sure that my love is felt as as much as possible.
Man, those are great answers. Now, I do have a question. Like, say, for instance, you go through all of that, right, and then the person starts to feel a certain way about it, and then they start, kind of pulling away, and then, trying to blame you for being mean or whatever. Because I've dealt with people like that where you do everything in your power to try to get them on the right direction, so to speak, I guess you would call it,
Mm-hmm.
and no matter what you say, I mean, you could be, it's kind of like narcissistic in a way,
Mm-hmm.
where you could just tell them the truth. You could be saying it in the softest manner possible, and very caring or whatnot, and then the person is blaming you for being mean because you're telling them something that they don't want to hear about themselves. Now, how would you say that again?
Oh, no, I'm just listening. I understand where you're going with it. So with that type of person, I would allow them to see themselves. If I'm giving a truth, now I've actually had this to happen in my life, and what actually ended up happening is I had to let that person go because they were, now it depends on the person that you're talking about, because some people will allow themselves to also step outside of themselves. Some people will have the strength inside of them to hear a harsh truth, and it might jolt their spirit. It might convict them deeply, and they'll get upset with you. They'll try to cuss you out, and they'll push back and resist it because you cut them a little deep and it hurts. And your natural reaction to anybody that hits you or you thump your toe or some kind of pain, you're going to get upset. You're going to cuss, and you're going to be upset. And that's a natural knee-jerk reaction. But some people will step outside of themselves and say, dang, I kind of understand what you mean when you say that. They'll allow it to come through. But then you have some people, like in my situation, where a person just simply wasn't ready, and they simply didn't like it. They simply didn't want to hear it. They were not ready to address the truth. And I had to let that person go so that they could literally take their sweet and precious time to grow into the truth that I had given to this particular woman. This is a person who married into my family. And when I was speaking some truths to her, I think they just cut her too deep, and her soul was so convicted. But what I think is beautiful about the whole situation with her is that she was able to be curious. Okay, when she heard the truth about what I was saying to her, about the way she believed, the way she was living, the way she was understanding the Word of God and things like that, she just wasn't ready to let go. And so I went my separate way for about 3 or 4 years. And this woman, at this point in life, we're back being the best of friends, because the truth I was speaking to her 3 or 4 years ago, she grew into them. Her mind was curious to know, what is this girl talking about? What is she actually saying to me? And eventually she got there and she recognized that I was not offending her, but I was just giving her some love that she should have held on to, and which I'm glad that she eventually did. So, it depends on the person on how they're going to take it. You got some people who are extremely strong, and they'll take that love you're going to give them. But then you'll have some people that are extremely weak, and either they'll grow into it or they might leave it behind. But all you can do is give it to them and hope that you've communicated your love in such a way that they can receive it as love. But that's completely up to them if they want to receive it as love or not.
This is Jennifer. Can I chime in?
Mhm.
Okay. I wanted to say something like before. I know one thing. I'm wise enough to know when I first enter into any relationship. I don't know if people do that, but like I watch them. I'm always in observation mode. When you first start a job, is that 90-day probation, and I do have a 90-day probation where you just watch this person, like see how they move, see where their head is at, and in this moment, that's when you see if they're vibrating at a high frequency or low frequency. This is when you're seeing if they're a forgiving type of person or they're understanding type of person. And then also conversation is required, having conversations about your expectations and what are your requirements. I don't know, I'm just now entering the dating scene now, and, I realize people just rush into it. And I'm like, whoa, what is going on? I'm used to things going a certain way. People might feel like it's controlling, but it's like, well, if you love me, you'll understand that I have a process. There's a process when it comes to love. But first, before I can love you and before I allow you to love me, I need to first know that we can get along. I need to first know that you are some type of, you're educated, or I need to know what type of frequency you're vibrating at. I need to know where your head is at. Are you level-headed? I need to know where you're going with this. Like, where could we take this? So, I definitely want to say love is definitely forgiving and understanding. And, I just wanted to say those few things.
That was great. How about you, Brother Moses?
Yeah, I think those things that are noted are important. I would also say that, if there's a person who doesn't seem to be receptive, then I think it's the job of the one who's providing the love, so to speak, to endure that person. Because I think there's an old saying that when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. And, you know, it goes without saying, but what the saying means is that when the learner comes to the understanding, when they arrive, right? Like you can be ready to teach, or to share or to groom a person, but until they come to the knowledge or they come to the understanding, like, oh, that's what this means, or that's what this, you know, that's when you can move it to the next level, right? So I would take an example in mathematics, for example. If we had a conversation about, let's say, factoring quadratic equations in algebra or something, if you don't understand, okay, I mean, you know, I can do an assessment with you and see that maybe your math is at a fifth grade level, so you're not able to factor quadratic equations. So it's my job to help you get there, and to endure you with patience until you arrive there. And what if you get the fifth grade math wrong over and over and over again? I'm not going to yell and scream at you and berate you, because I'm, let's say, the teacher. Like, I'm trying to raise your consciousness level. And there's another saying, I like sayings, you can't plant a seed and keep staring at it expecting it to grow, right? So again, like if, okay, somebody is not receiving what you think that you're giving to them, your job is doing with patience. All right, well, let me give this person a break for a time, and come and circle back around, but to consistently apply what you need to help cultivate that person consciousness, or if they not receptive to feedback, or they think they know everything, or they don't want to stop eating a certain food that you think they should stop eating. All right, every blue moon, bring them out another option. That's your job, right? And I think that's the job of the one that's learned, so to speak, already. Because at the same time that the one that's learned is providing for the unlearned, so to speak, there's somebody else that's providing for the learned, and the learned is unlearned. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're in fifth grade teaching the third grader, then somebody else is in 10th grade teaching you in fifth grade, right? So we both have to apply that give and take, receiving and receptive relationship as we wait for people to grow.
Man, great answers. Hey, Sal, did you say somebody was on the line?
Yeah, we got somebody standing by. Once again, the number is 319-527-6239. Let's bring them in. 678, you're live.
Shalom, everybody. Peace, everyone. This is Mario. How y'all doing?
Hey, peace, Mario.
I kind of wanted to give my input into what I believe love is. I'm a huge fan of love. And I guess going through the years or whatsoever of my life, I've been trying to search for what they would consider love or whatsoever, and I find out that there's many different forms of it. But to me, love is timeless, it's spaceless, meaning that there's no distance in between it. There's like non-materialistic in some ways. It requires sacrifice. It requires patience. It requires, I guess, emotional attachment. It does a lot of things. But also, I believe that love can be a good thing and it can also be a bad thing as well. The reason why I say that, I mean, of course, we talk about the good things about love. The way love can be a bad thing is that it can become addicted. It can be obsessive. It can be done excessively where people, I guess, take it too far or go way too far over with it, where it become an obsession over somebody or over, as well as it's a huge difference between lusting and love as well. I hope we could touch onto that a little bit as far as the difference between it, because I believe that lusting has a lot to do with focusing on, I guess, appearance or whatsoever, where love doesn't just fully concentrate on appearance, but it concentrates on a person's emotions, attachment, energy, vibrations, conversations, understanding, different things like that. So it's many different boundaries to love. I guess what else? There's different ways that people express it. I use the difference between me and my father. My father, he expresses his love. It took me a minute to actually understand that my father actually loved my mother because I wasn't seeing it. My understanding of what I thought was love was, bringing flowers, doing romantic stuff, et cetera, et cetera, which is what my character plays. I guess I'm more of a romance type person, Casanova, the good side of Casanova, if you know the story. Of Casanova, the type that likes to wine and dine. Where when I saw my father, he was more of a firm type, but you could see that he loved her mother based off of just like he provided. He was there anytime that she needed it. He was like a protection. She felt secure or whatsoever. So I think that also too is a form of expression of love, because it shows sacrifices as well as commitment. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I could think of at the top of my head about exactly how I feel about love, what I see as what is love, and yeah. But thanks for allowing me to share.
Can I ask the caller, when he conceives of love, is he speaking particularly? Maybe this is also a Vinny question. Are we speaking particularly about through human relation or the broad narratives? Because I think when we interrogate love and or the definition of it, like one person can love gardening, another person can love their spouse or their sibling, another person can love basketball, and there would be some commonalities between the three, right? The person who's playing basketball or loves basketball, I mean, he's going to eat it, he's going to breathe it, he's going to sleep it, he's going to put his body in physical shape. Well, would that be lust? Would that be love? Is that overboard? Like, and are we just talking about like people to people?
Yeah, I was basically just talking about people to people myself, but those are great points. As you can definitely draw parallels, between people and not obstacles, objects, and then also subjects as well, or hobbies. I think the parallel is still there. And I do think it's a fine line, and I think that the line pretty much gets blurred when we start adding all these superficial definitions to it. Like I don't know, like I sit and I think about a lot of stuff, and then like over here, and on this side, there's like every time something comes up or there's something going on, people always try to define it. And then once they define it, they try to fit it into this box instead of just letting it be what it is, and but I definitely see your point there, and and that was a great point that Brother Mario made up about the difference between lust and love, and I don't know, that's kind of hard. Let me think about that one, and then let somebody else give a take on it, and then I'm gonna come right back.
I think it's good for us to recognize that there are different types of love. We have them defined by our ancestors. They actually named the different types of love, like agape love, eros, mania. There are a few of them. I think there's 8 of them in total. But they have to do with the different ways in which people relatively love each other, because if you have agape love, it is unconditional. It means that there are, that's self-explanatory, unconditional. But if you have, let's just say, philia, or eros love. Those are having to do with romance and affection. And one thing I think people have to understand about love is that it is only appropriate based on the type of love that it is. If you have a professional relationship with someone, then you are not going to have an eros love for them. You're not going to have an agape love for them. You're going to have one that is what you would call a pragma type of love, which means you just endure, or a storage love, which means it's familiar. But you won't have a mania love for them because that's obsessive. You're not going to obsess in that relationship. But if you're in love with somebody romantically, then you might have an obsessive type of love for them, or you might have a conditional or romantic love for them. But the type of connection that you have with the person should determine the type of love that you offer to that person. And all love should not be unconditional. All love should not be romantic. All love should not be obsessive or playful or enduring. All different types of love have different vibrational frequencies, and that's what I was saying at the very beginning of the call, is that it's a vibrational frequency you have to match depending on what connection it is that you're forming. If you want to love on that particular thing, then you have to give it the right nutrients, meaning the right kind of love in order to make it grow.
Great answer. How about you, Sister Jennifer?
That's going to let y'all know that she does have to hang up because 9 o'clock, she had to leave at 9. So you continue.
Okay. And so, like as the Brother Moses was pointing out about the obsessional love, like playing a sport or something. Like how do you know with Sister Reese? How do you know which one is which? How do you differentiate so that you won't, sway to that obsessive type of expression?
Well, I would say it takes a little bit of practice and instinct in order for a person to display the right type of love. They have to first love themselves, and self-love. I think they call it. Lausha. I'm not exactly sure how to say that word. But it's the equivalent of self-love. So before anybody can disperse love to any outside place, they have to first go inward, figure out how to love themselves, and then that way they'll know the ways of love. Because first, in order to love anything, you must observe it, like my sister Jennifer was saying before she left the line, is that when she's in a love situation, she observes first, and that is appropriate. If you're going to if you're going to disseminate love in any type of situation, you must go through the scientific method. This is something that I teach in my training class about students learning how to research first. Research by way of observation, by collecting data and information, and then by aggregating that into a certain conclusion. So if I'm in a love situation where I need to love on something, whether it's loving myself, loving my job, loving my body, loving my spouse, my children, all different types of love, I'm going to first observe these things. I'm going to gather information about them, figure out what they need. Just like if I'm going to love on my house plants, or love on my cat, I need to know what my house plants need. I'm going to read the little instructions on the little things to tell me this plant will grow if you put it in direct sunlight and give it water every 2 weeks. Okay, now I know through observation and seeing when the little leaves go dry, when the little leaves start wilting, I know how to love my plant because I know I need to give it water. And so these are the types of things we have to do in all our relationships: watch, observe, be cognizant of what's going on, figure out what kind of resources you have in order for you to contribute to the growth of that thing. If you want to grow the love that you have for your spouse, look at what your spouse needs in their life right now. Do they need somebody to encourage them? Do they need somebody to be hard on them? Do they need somebody to, just simply stand back and let them do what they're going to do? Look at your children. Observe them. Do they need less phone time? Do they need more outside time, more constructive instructions, for school? What do they actually need in order for them to truly grow? Whether it be harsh, whether it be loving, soft, whatever. Go into your toolbox and pull out something that equals up to love whenever you're observing this particular thing that you intend to love on. And we can just do ourselves a favor by taking our time to do that. Like she said earlier, we rush into stuff, especially relationships, and we get to the point where we can't even love anything because we don't know nothing about it. We don't. Half of the times you get into a relationship with somebody, you know, they trying to love you and they giving you all the stuff that you don't need. You trying to run away from them, and they trying to back you over the head with what they call love. But because they haven't seen you, they haven't heard you, they haven't watched you, you know, they don't know how to love you. They just going to beat you over the head with something that they done pulled out of the back pocket and they think is love because it might be something that they need in their life. But they, you know, it don't work if you don't watch and if you don't look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brother Mike.
I don't know, man. She done went off the hand saying some powerful stuff here, man. I'm like, okay, I don't want to talk no more. So,
I hear you.
Just if I can synthesize some of the stuff that she said in some of my own words, I think it's a very, very valid point that when you think about, and again, I'm using like the broader definition, and one of my definitions, one of them is of love is the consistent practice of thinking and seeking the needs of another entity, right? So for a person that loves basketball, right, that's probably what she was explaining, like the mania love. And then back, at least when I was younger, like teenager or whatever else, you know, we used to have these little pagers and, you know, you get your pager number out and somebody call you, they don't call back like in 5 minutes, and you get like 50 more calls.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, that type of person, you know, they're a little extreme,
upset.
right? Like, how do you call back? Like, whoa. We're not doing that. Like one phone call, it take a while to get to a quarter. Payphone, we had payphones back then, and you know that's a maniac type of mania type of love. I think some people love sports like that. And I think the trouble that arises is that you can come across a relationship, and I'm talking like a people-to-people relationship. I don't play video games, right? I'm a grown man. I got other things to do with my time. If people do that with their time, men, women, God bless you. That's not how I use my time. I don't.
You got something against video games, brother? No, I got.
Yeah. I got a whole beef against video games.
We're gonna deal with that behind the scenes. We're gonna deal with that behind the scenes.
I'm telling you, right? Now again, like it's leisure, you know, but some people obsess, and I think my issue as a child, using just mania as a second example, is like I would be coming home from school, getting out at like 2:20, and my brother want to stop and play a video game for like 2 hours, and I'm like, yo, bruh, I want to go home. I'm hungry, but we all got to come home together, right? And when you use, like in terms of relationship, when you use the type of love that some people have of like mania, where they're overly obsessive about things, right? Whether people want to be vegans or be fruitarians or body conscious, or they want to go into a relationship with somebody, when I'm talking people to people, and you have somebody who really loves sports, right? Like, you know, they want to watch every game. Now they may have a thought that they're not loved by their spouse because maybe they're overly obsessive about something that's external. And I think going back to the thought where making sure that you're investigative, making sure that you kind of operate on the same frequency level as somebody to learn how they need to be loved is relative, and it's important. Otherwise, you didn't pay attention when you met her or him that she was always going shopping or he was always playing football. Now you feel ignored 4, 5, 6, 7 years into a relationship because you weren't attentive in the beginning when the relationship was nascent and growing, right? And I think that that's a really, really excellent point. So I just wanted to kind of re-echo that sentiment.
Yeah, that was a great point. It's definitely a fine line, and there's so many different types out there, man. It's hard to say. You know what my problem is? Like sometimes I have a problem when I'm like
trying to break it up, Vinny.
Sister Reese, I'm kind of straightforward.
Okay.
Is that better?
Go around.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm kind of straightforward because that's how I like people to be straightforward with me. I don't like to guess around or beat around the bush to go like the best, like they say, the best distance is the best point from A to B is a straight line. So that's kind of how I am, and I think I kind of like project that on a lot of people some of the times, and I could come off as like I don't care, like my emotions are just a cold, when it's not really the case. So I think I need to work on that myself. Is how to walk that fine line between being cold-hearted and also being caring to the other person's feelings, but at the same time tell them the truth that they need to hear. And I kind of wanted to kind of ask like when you're in a relationship, like I can easily, like if I see two people and I've seen how they deal with each other for a long time, I can easily assess that relationship and give some pretty good advice. But then sometimes, like when I'm in a relationship myself, I can't really see the type of things sometimes that I can see if I'm the person from the outside looking in. How like what are some of the ways you guys go about dealing with that type in order to give some good advice, or even to take good advice and then implement that advice, in your own relationship? How would you go about doing that?
I hate to sound stereotypical, but some of it, some people would say like knowledge of self, right? And I think in relationships, most people engage in relationships with their antonym, right? And by that I mean you talk a lot, she quiet, right? She talk a lot, you quiet. You always want to be around people, she don't really care for being around people. And for the life of me, I can't always figure out why that is. I mean, I got my reasonings on it. So one of the things is knowing yourself, right? And sometimes by knowing the person you're involved with, spouse, mate, somebody you're courting, etc., you can listen to advice differently because that person is diametrically opposite than you are. And if you know yourself well, like me, I keep a full plate like all the time, right? My wife, she's the opposite, right? She pace herself. Look, I can do all 60 things, right? That don't always work. So I'll often be told, look, why don't you slow down? Why don't you do one thing at a time, et cetera, et cetera. So I think part of it is knowing myself. I have to be keen and pay attention to, you know what, I'm tripping. What made me think I can get all this done? And it's often proven because I know myself and I know my antonym, so to speak. Then I know, yep, this is definitely a time I need to seek her counsel, her advice on how to proceed, because I know what I would do if I leave it up to me. And I'm going to pause there.
Sister Ricky?
Yeah, I wanted to I guess it's imagery that I want to give you for that answer. Whereas if you want to ever understand what you're doing in a relationship without having to necessarily go outside of the relationship and ask around and, how do you handle this type of stuff, the best way to do that is it's sort of what I said earlier about stepping outside of yourself so that you can get a higher perspective. But the common word for that is called embodiment. And another common phrase for that is putting yourself in another person's shoes. You have the golden rule of treating people how you want to be treated. So when you've done something to a person, put yourself into their shoes, or if you said something to them. I'll use a very simple example of you talking to a person and their breath stinks. You know that's something that, it could happen to you one day. where your breath might be stinking. How would you want somebody to tell you that information? Would you want them to do it in a public room, crowded, all loud, and all this other stuff? Would you want them to pull you to the side or take you to the bathroom or just quietly slip you some gum? How would you want to be given this type of love, even though it may be harsh or it may hurt your ego or it may be this or that? So whenever you are dealing with a person, any person in any type of love relationship, whatever is going on, if you're trying to break news, if you're trying to say something that's harsh, if you're trying to, sort of break free or give yourself space, do that in such a way that how you would want it to be done with you. Give whatever understanding needs to happen so that the person can get it, and then they'll be able to take it a lot better when they realize that you have considered them before you just decided that you wanted to shatter their world. You're going to tell me my breath thing, at least let me know that, you care about me not being fully embarrassed and having my whole dream shattered just because you wanted to share this with me.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. Because it's easy to see it when you're on the outside looking in, but sometimes it's hard to spot when you're involved in the situation, or directly in the situation. I should see, and I see myself. I catch myself a lot of the times, but sometimes I don't, and I have to come back and apologize, and especially because some of the times I just notice it. I'll be like, dang, I didn't handle that the right way, and then I have to go back and try to make amends. But
don't be too hard on yourself. That's fair, because nobody's perfect. And to me, as a woman, I would appreciate that more so than I would not just saying anything or just letting it ride. Because some people do that. They'll know good and full well they came off the wrong way. They'll know good and full well they flew off the handle or said something that didn't need to be said, and they'll just be like, oh well, F. I'm not going to even revisit. But, if you come back and you're humble enough to say this could have been better, this could have been better on my part, I'm going to take the heat for it and apologize or whatever. That's just as honorable and noble as if you had never done it in the first place.
Right. Now, just to switch gears a little bit, I know we talked about relationships, got in a bit about things and objects and stuff. And we also got into, the fine line between lust and love a little bit. Here's a different one, communal love. What you do for the people in your community, or what you do for the people in your circle, as a whole. How do we go about, what is your definition how to love, your say, for instance, you live in a neighborhood or something, and how would you go about showing that you love your neighborhood, or you go about and showing stuff? Me personally, I like to lead by example. So if they ask me for something, I just give it. I'll let them have, give it to them. Don't even worry about them giving it back to me or whatnot. Or, maybe you see somebody who you open the door for somebody. People see that goes a long way, and I think that like you say, action. Your actions project onto people, and people can see that, and then they kind of, not every time, but a lot of the times people mimic those actions, and they kind of begin to same action. But how are you guys go about showing love for community or for your people, or just in general, and that and things of that nature? Go ahead, bros. Or whoever would like to talk first. Hello?
Well, I'll go ahead and answer. Since I guess people are still thinking. But the for me, community love is very similar to other types of love, but it has to still do with the personal decision of how you want to use your personal resources to give to other people. You know, you can do that in any way, but honestly, to me, a smart person would love on their community by starting a business. That way, the community can reciprocate the love that they're being shown by participating in the business and having those needs to be felt. Because honestly, that is the way our universe has set us up for abundance. We all have natural gifts and talents and things that we can give to others as a gift of love, and that is honestly where our value lies. You know, if you have something that other people can use, other people can learn from, other people can grow from, that is your passion, your business. You know, that's the way the universe meant for you to earn your keep. It's not for you to go learn a trade and learn how to do a specific skill, but it's just for you to learn yourself. Learn what you have inside of yourself. If you have an understanding that you can give, if you have a skill that you can teach, all those things are just different ways for you to love on the people around you. You start a business, let them love you back because love needs to be reciprocated.
Right.
Then that to me is community love, and that's one reason why I went into entrepreneurship, so I could pursue my love and my passion for giving of myself to other people and still being self-sustainable while doing that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Brother Moses, are you there? Okay, well, yeah, I pretty much share the same sentiments as you. I think what my ideal thing would be to start, like get our own community where everybody has a business and then everybody pitches in. If somebody needs help, then you help them. If they don't, but that would be my pretty much my ideal thing, like starting your business, and then you can help out people, But yeah, I definitely agree with you on those points. And have you ever had any pushback from different types of people, or are you around like-minded people? Like in your neighborhood, is there like-minded people who share the same ideals as you, and then they start their own business and you guys start a community?
I'm working on that. I do have some people that I have been very intentional about building that type of community around me because I don't think anybody naturally exists in an environment of like-mindedness. We all kind of have to grow through that, into that, and kind of search for our crowd, which is fine. But that is exactly what I'm doing in business right now. I'm putting together a network of Black businesses who are specifically ready to join together and provide services for the Black community in such a way that we're able to show our love to our community by serving them in our businesses. And I'm actually actively looking every day for businesses that serve the Black community. Like, for example, I just reached out to a brother in New York. I live in Atlanta. He has a gentleman's club where he calls it the Gentleman's Factory. You all can look it up on Instagram. It's called the Gentleman's Factory. He basically has the cure for isolation is what he calls it, where Black men in the community are usually suffering from feelings of isolation and not fitting in because the world is against y'all right now. All of y'all have so many things stacked up against you just for being a straight Black man. And he put together this thing where he has resources for the community. He's putting on educational programs, teaching brothers about finances, teaching brothers how to clean themselves up, how to put something on their mind, social events for them, all kinds of stuff up there in New York. And I messaged him today on Instagram. I said, will you please open up one of those down here in Atlanta because brothers need that. That's a very that's a very key component to our communities being built is having our brothers with something on their minds. And that's something I believe in. It's something I'm sure that brother is passionate about. And on top of that, he's not even from America. He's an African immigrant. So, I really appreciate when businesses can come together for the purpose of truly serving a community's needs. And I know for a fact that's something that our brothers need. So I'm always doing that, looking for people that are showing love to the community through their businesses, through their passion, through their activities every day, and what they got their mind on. I love it.
Now, is this something that you grew up like with like you've always had this drive, or did you kind of like pick it up from like I know you said your mom was in the military, and then she was real firm with you, but how was the community that you was raised in? Were they like everybody together and love and doing these types of things?
I wish my family. My family was full of what I would like to call misfits, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why I am the way I am is because I went through a phase in my life when I would look at them and realize I didn't want to be them. And so my drive and motivation came from me just wanting more for myself. And not, when you're a kid, things don't necessarily make literal sense to you, but they make energetic sense to you. And I could tell that a lot of people in my family, the way they were living their life, I felt miserable, like misery from them. I could tell they were miserable the way they was living, and I could tell they were just laughing to keep from crying. I didn't want to live that way. I didn't want to live like that. So a lot of the things that I come into in my life is simply because what I saw growing up, it was not happiness. It was not people living to their potential. It was not them coming together to do things together. It was not them living happy and whole lives. And I didn't know what that was back then, but I knew that it wasn't for me.
Right. Brother Moses, you back? Do you like? Okay, there you go.
What was the question?
Okay, yeah. So we talking about community and like how do you show love? That was the first question. Is like dealing with community. How would you show love? Like, do you start businesses or? I know Sister Reese says she's starting a business and then also a network. She wants to start a network of community, and I kind of have the same ideas. Like. Starting a network of like businesses where everybody can help each other, kind of like I would more closely liken it to a bartering system almost, where you trade your services. Of course you get paid too, but you don't really focus on the money too much, as to like just trading services. I know you work with kids. I know that's a big help anyway.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh,
you work with,
well,
right?
I think the work that I do runs like a full gamut from 8 to 80, so to speak. But a lot of the youth development I work, my wife and I run a organization that teaches, among other things, mathematics and carpentry to 8 to 13-year-olds.
Nice.
And we do a lot of different programming. I think when we started, we did a lot of programming for free or programming really because there was a need and really not because we were trying to charge. We had pretty decent income coming in from me working in government or whatever else I was doing at the time. Plus, I've always been entrepreneurial, so I think I've always found ways to help community, like from getting people jobs to creating enterprises to help repair people's property, like small stuff, nothing major, but seniors in the community need a roof done or something repaired in their house. So me, myself, other brothers may have some skills. Look, we'll just do it because it needs to be done.
Right.
So I think that's part of a way. I also think that time and resources are a lot of times constricted. I may drop off again driving through a mountain. But time and resources are constricted, so a lot of times people don't have the opportunity to demonstrate care for community as much because you have to often be like hyperly involved into meeting your basic needs with taxes or whatever else the government or commerce is trying to do to charge you for just living. But I think the ways that we do it is really like through programming, through community activities, just speaking to neighbors, engaging with neighbors in the community. But then I'm also a writer, so like I've published a few publications I'm always involved with my family in it. So, like my daughter wrote some of the pages, my wife wrote some of the pages, etc. We published a publication called Lies My Preacher Told Me, and we just distribute it for free. I mean, just that's the way for us of showing love, right? There's other publications that we develop and etc. Ran men's groups, book clubs, anything really to kind of help point the people in a direction of raising their consciousness and kind of helping a uniform call that we just can't continue on as if the system isn't planning and plotting against us. So we have to intentionally map out a set of activities and pursue those activities to try to not only ameliorate our own conditions, but also set a path for the generation that's coming behind us. So.
Yeah, and I know Sister Reese said that she had to sit back and reflect on her life and kind of develop, where she was going to go because the people around her wasn't into that type of stuff. But I would ask you as well, like, the people were you influenced by the people that were around you, or was it something that you had to get out and kind of like look off and then see it that that's what you wanted to do and develop that? Was it kind of
I was like a mini revolutionary since the time I was like 8 and 9. So,
okay.
Yeah, my one of my best friends, who's deceased now. When we were like in 5th grade, we were planning to get paper routes when we were old enough to save up money from our paper routes to buy hovercrafts to go over to Russia and free black slaves, right? I mean, this was like 5th grade, right? This was what my head was as a kid. Dang. Now you couldn't. Was there really slaves in Russia? Wow. My man told me it was slaves in Russia, and I was like, we got to do something about this, right? And, I mean, it's the naivety of being a child, but my family was really, really. They weren't activists, but they were heavily involved in things in community. So
right.
My grandmother was involved. My aunts were involved. My uncle was involved. They were just heavily involved in things in community. So it wasn't. Not that one. It wasn't abnormal for me to kind of get involved in some of the things that I got involved in later in life. We also, as children, volunteered a lot of places. Like my mother, I was raised with 5 brothers, so with a single mom. So we volunteered everywhere. I mean, public broadcasting station, radio telethons, church activities, Boy Scouts, whatever she can get us involved in to keep us occupied and busy.
Right.
We were involved in. So I think there was a natural proclivity as I grew to kind of create some of those environments and then also involve people in those environments. So probably one of the reasons I call myself a social architect, because I really believe in the power of groups, but then also like helping design plans that groups and people can be involved in to, again, just chart another track.
Right. Wow, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, me myself wasn't. My family was activists when they were young, when they were like coming up. Like my mom, she was involved in the Panthers, and then my father, he wasn't really an activist, but he was always like a family person, and he always like had good advice for everybody, and he also had his own business, and he made us get up and go work, for our clothes and stuff. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit as well. Like it's really hard for me to go work for somebody, and like I was saying, like my main goal is like I want to, once we get kicking, because we're starting the business back up from scratch again. But once we get kicking a little bit, maybe hire some people, and then start, doing what you were saying, going off and taking care of people's stuff that need to be taken care of, Like, because I remember when my parents were coming up, all the stories that they used to tell us about their neighborhood, like if it's an old lady who needed her grass cut, her parents would be like, oh, you got to go over there and cut her grass, So you go over there and they'll go over there and cut the grass or whatever. or maybe a house needs to be a fence or something needs to be taken care of. Go over there and fix that fence, you know. So it was always that kind of love growing up, and I'm just wondering how we can get back. And I know that you're already working towards doing that stuff, but like, how do we get people involved? You know, or how do we so I don't really want to say solicit, but that's a word that I could think of right now. How do we solicit that kind of love and then have other people reciprocate back? How do we do that? Well, like, what is the best steps to take to go ahead and do that you guys would say? Sister Reese, go ahead, I guess.
I think myself and our business partners are making, we're making very, very good strides to centralizing a system that is basically a network of people to do exactly what my brother said, which is bartering. The way that nature set up our community community affairs, and trust me, government and social activity is what you would call a social science or political science. And so what it basically means is that each and every one of us, if we all came together, we have what it takes to serve each other's needs in full. And so the idea is to get as many business owners as possible in diverse areas, diverse fields, to come together so that this network can be created for the purpose of serving people's needs in different ways. And so as I am networking and putting people together and putting businesses together, my focus is to get black people, quote-unquote black people, to understand that if we're going to have national success, economic success, then we must have an organization, a centralized organization, where we can actually hold our accumulated wealth. If we have enough businesses come together and say, all right, now listen, I'm a part of this association, organization, affiliation, a part of this network. I'm giving you all those synonyms as terms because all of these things is exactly how the network will work. It will work as a network, it will work as an organization, and it also be centralized so that, let's just say, for example, all these business owners come together and they want to serve only the black community, or they only want to do business back and forth between black people so that the black dollar is held and the black dollar is recirculated amongst ourselves, then we have to create the network and the centralized organization to do so. There is a political movement that we all should be aware of because this is the only way that we're going to be able to hold on to our accumulated wealth, and that is nationalization. A lot of people don't know what nation they belong to because we have so many different factions out here trying to gain validity. But at the end of the day, which part of the nation of black people you belong to does not matter. If you can just simply understand that you, as a black person, that you are indigenous to whatever land you come from, that is enough of a classification. You do not have to go any further than that as you identify yourself as a quote-unquote black person. You can just simply say, I am indigenous and this is my nationality. So that way, when you're spending money, you're not spending money as just a black person. You're spending money as a part of a network, as a part of an organization. And what we don't understand is that a nation is nothing but an organizational structure. The Europeans have their own organizational structure called the U.S. government. Other countries have their own organizations. You have the UN, which is the organization of organizations. It's just, the UN is just a compilation of a whole bunch of different national organizations, national governments coming together and saying, hey, this is my network. I'm bringing it to the table.
Nice. And how about you, Moses?
Oh, you probably have to just reframe the question to make sure I'm addressing it correctly.
Okay, so like just going about, like, I know that you deal with the you already do a lot, like dealing with people in your community and stuff like that. But how would you project people, to help to get them to reciprocate what you're doing, or kind of like reciprocate your energy towards basically loving your community, or taking care of your community or your people?
So, well, I think some of that is kind of, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, which is helping raise their consciousness. Like sometimes people, depending on what seat they sit in, believe that I may be helping serve their end objective. So, again, you teach a 10-year-old carpentry, like you got companies who are like, oh, you're building a pipeline for me. Like, nah. But then what's the end result of doing the work, right? It's not really so a kid can be competent and pass math tests and go get a job when he gets older. Like that's not the aim, if you would, or that's not the end result that we're trying to accomplish. That is a part of it, but that's not the end result, right? How can you help develop young adults? There's a bunch of stuff I can't say on radio, but how can you develop young adults? How can you raise their consciousness? And what would be the end objective or result? No, what would be the end? What would it look like? Probably a better way to put it. What would it look like if, let's say, we served in a course of 10 years, 500 to 1,000 students a year, and those 10-year-olds became competent, skilled 20-year-olds, and there was 500 of them a year, right? How would they seek to actualize the information that they've been taught in those 10 years, right? Now that they're 20, in what ways would they try to self-actualize, right? Would you have dilapidated buildings like you got in Detroit? Would you have young men who, walk around with their pants hanging down, gyrating and singing the latest hip-hop song to headphones?
Right.
Would you have men who grew up degrading women, right? What if their vocabulary, could we, through the activities and work, cut 50 to 75% of the U.S. prison population or jail population or county jail population in a given municipality, right? This is a part of the work, right? Now, how would this go about? I mean, part of it is like, you got to have resources, obviously. But I think you also have to move with a certain amount of intentionality and think ingenuitively. Like when you did not have certain food growing up, you made meals out of what you had. And I think the creator sees that, people around you see that, and say, look, man, this is what you've done with the little that you had. Man, take this, and then we want to, kind of magnify that work to a different level. So I think on a micro level, that's how the work spreads to community. Because when I see a young man, I want to put a book in his hand, but what if he don't read, right? Like I don't want to waste my books. So how do I teach you the value to get excited about being educated versus just learning how to read or just reading a book? The value of being able to see the world in a new lens versus just reading a paragraph to say you did it. And I think that that's part of the work. That's not all of it, but I think that's a great part of it.
Cool. Yeah. Now, that would have been my last question, but I did have something that just popped up into my head. It's this, I don't know if you guys have been noticing about the big hoopla that everybody's having about, the Botham family, where that lady, the police officer went to the wrong place and then killed the brother guy, and then the family in court, hugging her and then forgiving her, I guess, Now, me personally, I don't, I look at forgiveness sometimes as like I'm not really forgiving you for you. I'm forgiving you for me so that I can move on, you know, so that I won't be sitting there tripping and going through the emotions, you know. So it's basically kind of like loving myself so that I won't be affected by that. But I see a lot of people getting upset because the people forgave, and I don't know if it was the forgiveness or if it was the hug, you know, and the other stuff that was going on. But what do you guys think about that? Like, do you think that they were loving, you know, themselves or loving that lady because they forgave her, or do you think that they were? Does that kind of offend you guys?
Well, I actually have stayed very, very clear of that whole scenario. And
right.
One, I'm not on like social media and the internet a whole lot, so I'm already like ignorant because of that. And I heard people talking about it, and I got to go back and like do the research and be like, man, what people are mad about? Like people pissed about that, right? So I have to go back and do some work. What I have found, at least with myself, is that one, I wasn't there when it happened, right? So
for
starters, I was not physically there. Can I often say, because of race relations, people get into this really hypersensitive, like they meant this and she did this and like, see, I wasn't there, right? So I'm not gonna jump out and speak on who meant what by what and if that man hugging her. I will say this: what I did see, some of it startled me. Like I saw like a black cop stroking a white woman's hair. That startled me. Like that startled me. It just did. It startled me. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? But the rest of it, if that the brother, let's say, put himself in the seat of the woman, and let's say, because I don't know, let's say she actually did it on accident, like she didn't mean to do that, like she wasn't being malicious. Do any of us know what it feel like to sit in that seat and be held accountable for something that, like, man, you took somebody's life? Yeah. Man, I would want somebody to hug me. I'm about to go sit down for 10 years. I would want that. Like, console me. Like, help me to, like, 10 years is a long time. So
that's a very long time.
I don't know the facts around it. I don't side with any particular person. I think the whole thing was, unfortunate, if that's the word to use. And I can't say what was in that woman's heart or not in her heart, just because I don't know. But the way that I look at, that entire scenario, I can't say that she was the brother, the woman. I can't say that they were not being loving or not. I don't know. That's not mine to judge. I kind of want to pause. There's a couple other things I want to say, but I'll kind of pause there for a minute.
Okay. And Sister Reese?
Yeah, actually, Reese sent a message that she had to go, so she's no longer here with us right now. But she said, great show.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sis. And because I was looking at I watched Zadok, brother's name Zadok. I don't know if you're familiar with Zadok, but he was speaking on it.
You said,
I don't know.
Me and him like white and rice. So.
Oh, okay.
Actually, when he was speaking on it, he was coming to meet me. I just, he's in the car talking to us stuff. I'm like, man, what is that? He was coming to meet me. Yeah, I was in New York over the weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. You didn't holler at your boy Elijah? I'm in New York, man, Brooklyn, bro. We're gonna talk about that too behind the scenes.
No. You in Brooklyn. I'm in Buffalo.
Yeah. You in Buffalo. I guess.
That's like 2 hours, ain't it?
Shoot. 7 on a good day.
On
a good drive. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but he did make a great point though. He was like, he saw a situation where a police officer was shot by, a little youngster, and the police officer didn't want the, he told I guess the judge not to sentence him harshly or whatever, that he didn't really want him to go away forever just for that. And then when he went to jail, the officer went to go visit him a few times, and he said it was a different reaction. Everybody wasn't tripping because, you know, a black officer with a young black kid, so to speak, right? But he said, but this one, it's like everybody's up in arms because it's a white lady who killed a black dude, you know. And then come to find out that it was talking about, it was a lie about how she was messing with him, you know, and it was actually her neighbor, and she was on the cell phone texting and stuff. So, you know, I just found that kind of odd. But yeah, that was some great insight. But I do think that we do kind of play the respecter of persons a little bit, and I don't think that you can truly love if we're respecting persons. I think that was a great points that you just made about that. But yeah, but that's all I had to say for this for that topic. I don't know if you wanted to ask anything, Brother Moses, but
I think that, you know, that people are really, really sensitive, and I think I understand the history of race relations in the United States. I also understand how when things happen, people's opinions are really, really jaded, and it just, to me, goes into the gross ignorance that people are involved in. So, and, you know, people act like white people ask this all the time, right? Like, when a black man shoot a black man, how come y'all don't get so mad, right? Which is a legitimate question. Like, y'all aren't always. It is. And part of the answer is like, you know, a cop is a person in authority, and authority shouldn't be abusing authority by shooting somebody who unarmed, this, that, and the third. But there is a seeming outrage for brown people being inflicted some type of harm by white people, but they do not execute that same type of attitude if it's not that. And it just, like, people's minds are lulled to sleep, like they do not have good reasoning skills. So when something like that happens, again, I'm saying this with the first notion in mind, I don't know much of anything about it. My daughter asked me about it. My daughter, 14, she asked me, Dad, what do you think about? I don't know nothing about that. Like, I don't, you know, and I can't even use social media or YouTube or wherever people commentary as a I would have to go back and, you know, kind of read it. Because people all over the board, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's sad, man. It's really, really sad. It's really sad.
It is.
Like, the lack of judgment, the lack of good, decisive judgment. So, I'm not in the woman's seat, but I know, just, you know, I would just say if it was me, man, I just got sentenced to 10 years, man, it would feel some type of way, and especially if it was an accident, man. Like, especially if it was an accident, that it would just feel some type of way, man. Anybody who could hug me or forgive me, you know, you wasn't the woman. I don't know. I don't believe that brown people have a good sense of consciousness. And then I'll leave it at this. I heard people responding about, you know, standing up for the oppressed and this, that, and the third. I don't know the scenario, but sometimes people tend to conflate the entire black race on one person who did something wrong. Meaning, you was, let's say, not this guy, the guy who got shot, but you take a young man who got beat by the police for selling narcotics in his neighborhood. Like, and people are like, well, he did it. No, police should have beaten him? No, like, they shouldn't. But should he have been selling narcotics in his neighborhood? Like, I mean, come on, man. Come on. So I think, I think just judgment is missing amongst a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm looking on social media, fellas, and speaking about the Geiger case or whatever. And some people are actually saying in some of the groups that that's listening to the show, If the situation was reversed, like it was a black man that I know this is gonna come up, it was a black cop that killed a white guy, and he was facing some years in jail, would a white person give that same hug to the brother? Do you see that kind of thing? And I guess we are compassionate people, and as far as from a Christian perspective, for that brother to want to even give that person a hug is like the ultimate, humbleness and the ultimate. Some people actually criticizing him for that type of vibe, to want to be able to go hug that person. So, like, I guess the question is, if the situation was reversed, would they be as passionate for that?
Well, I don't know. I think like some people, and I don't think every card in the deck is the same power, the same hand. So if somebody took my brother's life, you go through a set of emotions. How long was that trial? A day, a week, a month, a year, 6 months? I don't know. But you go through a set of emotions. And the bottom line, and I'm just talking from a man who's lost two of his best friends, you go through a range of emotions, right? And the way that they were lost were very similar. Gun violence. You go through a range of emotions. I don't know if I would be hugging the person who killed them. I don't even know if it was a white black man who shot a white. I don't know, but I know some Europeans and Caucasians have a tendency to be very, very forgiving, right? Not all of them are like your Klans member, Confederate, like I can't stand black people type of stuff. No. A lot of them aren't like that. So I can't speak with a broad brush on what people would do if the gender roles or the race roles were switched. I can't say, but I will say that not everybody is going to carry bitterness and hatred around with you. And part of the reason is because when you are bitter itself, it consumes you. It'll eat you away versus just saying, look, I got to let this go. Like it happened. Exactly. I can't carry it on. Like I could be bitter at all white people. Where is that going to take you?
Nowhere.
Like now you want to go shoot and kill some people. Like sometimes just for your own mental clarity, you got to let stuff go. And that I understand. Not the race thing. I can't conflate the two issues. I can't say who would have did what if they was black or white or Asian or Chinese. I don't know.
Yeah,
nor do I want to get shot by a white person.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you respond, man. Just let you know. I'm just letting you know you got a call to stand by, but you can respond. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when I forgive, man, it's a lot of the times it's not forgiving for the other person. It's just forgiving for myself. What's going on with me, so that I won't be, lingering. That thought won't be lingering in my head, because it can linger and it can consume. So that's why I say, man, myself, I just, forgive and then just get on with my life, because it's even if you get a chance, even like say for instance she did it on purpose, right? You went and you sat down with that woman, and then you had the option of taking her life or beating her up pretty bad, or whoever it was, what is it gonna do afterwards? It definitely ain't gonna make you feel no better, because the problem is still gonna be there. You're missing one of your loved ones. That you might get a little gratification at the first part, but after a while, man, that stuff wears off, and then the reality sets back in, and it's like your friend is still gone, and or your loved one is still gone, and there ain't nothing that you can do about it. You just got to move on with your life, So I mean, most of it doesn't even make sense, trying to go after them in that way, But go ahead, Sal.
All right, we open up the phone lines. The number is 319-527-6239. As always, we appreciate the family that's listening on social media, on the phone, checking out the platform, checking out the show. People that's in the chat room, we appreciate you. So if you want to call in again, the number is 319-527-6239. Simply press number 1, and we can hear from you. For those that are new to the show, there's no foul language. Keep it clean, keep it professional. Let's go to 804. You're live.
Hi, good evening. I just came across your show, and I believe that people overcomplicate their lives. It's pretty simple when you sit down and turn off the devices and understand nature is God's classroom, number one, just to look at the beauty surrounding you, the flowers, the trees, listening to the birds singing. They're happy because all their needs are met. And I think that we all incarnate to learn what unconditional love is. And as we learn it, then we're supposed to be a blessing to others, especially those who can't help themselves. So when you understand that you came from spirit, even an atheist can't deny that, and that 100 years is like the blink of an eye in terms of eternity, and eventually you'll be returning to spirit with the material goods of absolutely no use. I say we are accountable for everything we do here. So I think we incarnate with a mission. We may never know what it is, but it can be grandiose. It can be simple. It's all up to you to tap into your own spirituality and co-create with your Creator in ways, again, that are a blessing to others. I was blessed with a earth angel for a wife for 35 and a half years who taught me the lesson of unconditional love, and I was raised as a Roman Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic at this point, but I do thank them for teaching me about who Jesus Christ was, and he said it in the most simple, basic way, two things on how people should live their life. That's to put God first always. I don't tell you how to believe or who to believe in, but that's spirituality. It's not religion. Secondly, to love your neighbors yourself, and that starts with yourself. So I say, too, to open people's minds, to give them choices, since there is so much chaos today. Here's a couple of choice. If you had to choose between immediately being an embittered paraplegic billionaire or a healthy, happy person with all your basic needs met, some people might jump right on the billionaire, but I think after a couple of days they'd truly regret that choice, especially if they had a nasty nurse. And related to how you hurt somebody else, if you had to experience 1,000,000 times stronger the pain that you caused somebody physically or psychologically, how long do you think you'd continue doing that?
Yeah. Now, how would you define unconditional love? I know you said love your neighbor as yourself. You're saying like unconditional, meaning like no matter what the circumstances, in all things you just still love that person as you love yourself, or do you have a different meaning?
Well, there's so many different meanings. That's, again, where definitions get so screwed up with language.
Yours. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the Clinton impeachment trying to figure out what the definition is, but you get these lawyers and they'll just tear it apart forever as long as they're getting paid to do that. But no, it's really something that is in your own heart that you have to figure out, and just you get into if you go into a state of gratitude, and again, just keep that in mind, and when you know that you're going through something that you can't handle beyond a certain point, then just let go and let God take over. I've done that, and I've actually seen people that have fooled with me in a negative way die, which I never asked to happen, but that's the karma they took on in the way they interacted with me in that negative way. So it's just developing your own system of belief, and again, it's not about religion at all. In fact, I say if all the religions function on the planet properly, nobody would be deprived clean water, food, and proper shelter. And they should be empowering their people instead of controlling and begging for money all the time. They're always begging for money, but then they build all these grandiose churches. I had to laugh at the fire over in Paris at the Notre Dame Cathedral to see how corporations raised $1 billion almost within a week, yet probably in view of the cathedral, people are starving to death. So where is all the humanitarian work happening? We just building monuments that are going to turn into dust eventually, as we will too?
Yeah. Okay. Brother Mullis, you have anything to say? I guess
no, I was just listening.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just
okay. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you for your call, sir, and take it easy. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. And it all begins with yourself. And if you can't do anything else to help make the world a better place, you can say a prayer, and that will help raise the consciousness, and God will put the ego in check where it needs to be. So thank you very much again.
Have a good point. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, family. Once again, the number is 319-527-6239. What is the true meaning of love? What is the true meaning of love? I actually had a conversation a few weeks ago about unconditional love. I don't know, man. To me, in my opinion, it's like, when it comes to relationships, at least, I know some kids, when it comes to kids, it's like unconditional love, right? Your kid could be good or bad. So you want to love them regardless, right? Because it's your kid. But when I know when it comes to relationships, though, it's like there are conditions. You have to keep stimulating that person. So if you stop stimulating that other person in whatever way it is, then that love's going to turn to hate or it's going to turn into something else. Do y'all believe in unconditional love when it comes to relationships?
To be honest, I think the way that I define it, as in like treating your neighbor or the other person like you would yourself, I think that's unconditional, because you would never ever stop doing that if you really love somebody. But then people define love differently. That's why I asked him. Like, I know, that he defined it that way, but when everybody's definition of unconditional love is different. Like my sister, she defines it like, smoochy hugs. I never ever tell you anything that's going to hurt your feelings type of thing. I don't think that's love at all. Well, it could be, but I think a lot of the times that does a little more hurt than good. So, but if we were to define it like treating yourself, the person next to you as your neighbor, or something like that, then I would say that should be unconditional. But in the terms of like just going on with them because you don't want to hurt their feelings, or encouraging bad behavior, I don't think that shouldn't be unconditional. No.
Yeah, I would say, and I may lose the signal soon, but I would say that you can love someone unconditionally but not accept certain aspects of their behavior. So I couldn't imagine, let's say, a parent who birthed a child, raised a child. Oh. Look like he got
I think Moses is dropping off, man. Can't hear Moses. He's still on the line, though.
He went through that big mountain.
Yeah, man. But now, a lot of people like to say, there's unconditional love, but I don't know, man. Like I said, if you stop doing certain things, automatically it's gonna be like, oh, I don't love you anymore when it comes to relationships,
right?
So I find that people, when it comes to their children, like they can be the worst person in the world, but if it's their child, they still gonna love them, or mothers or parents, stuff like that. Like I know children that love their mom, and their mom could be on drugs or strung out, abuse them and everything, and they still love their mothers unconditionally. But I just find when it comes to relationships, though, it's like way different. It's almost like, if you don't do this for me anymore, then I don't love you anymore.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then, like, a lot of the times, like, you'll let stuff slide with your friends, like, especially if they're doing the wrong thing. You'll let it slide if it's your friends than you would if, somebody else. I don't, I don't think that's love at all. I think that actually hurts people more than it does good. I don't know.
That's true. Well, everybody dropped off, man. Vinny D, you hosted this particular segment. We rode it to the wheels fall off, But let people know what's going to be the next topic, man, for next week. You picked that topic as well. Let them know.
Yeah, so the next topic, God willing, if Blog Talk is acting right, next one is going to be like is white supremacy, and if we take part in it or not. I think that's going to be a topic that's going to be real good, because a lot of us partaking. You know what I'm saying? By the things we do.
So you kind of break it up a little bit, Vinny. Kind of breaking up a little bit.
So I'm in something for the kids. But
okay.
But yeah, yep. I think it's gonna be a heavy topic. Tune in.
Yeah, man. All right, so make sure y'all tune in next week. Any last words, Vinny? Yeah.
No, that's about it, man. Sal, thanks for having me on. That's all. I'd like to thank the Moses, also the callers that called in. Appreciate you guys. Everybody have a good night.
I appreciate the family out there that tuned into the Social Hub this week, Monday, every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have shows all week, Monday to Friday this week. So we apologize for last week. We had a lot of technical difficulties with the Blog Talk Radio, having some issues with their servers. But, we're back on. And in the future, anytime we have some issues on Blog Talk Radio, we're going to go to the YouTube page, which is Debate Talk for You. That's Debate Talk, the number 4 letter U on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. So in case we can't do certain shows on here on Blog Talk, we'll defer to the YouTube page and continue the show there. All right, so we appreciate the family out there. Appreciate you. Tune in tomorrow. See you at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.